We are back with a new episode. And guess where we are? We're back in the deep dive. I am your host, Jeff Gallish of Unfinished Business, Unfinished B2. And with me, as always, is Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
We're talking about the movie that inspired Ricky Martin's biggest hit.
If you're young and don't recognize that, the movie is Mi Vida Loca. The single is Living La Vida Loca. This movie is written and directed by the great Allison Anders, one of my favorite directors, who is, I would say, underknown. She directed a segment of Four Rooms. She also directed Gas Food Lodging, Things Behind the Sun with Don Cheadle. She also directed one of my favorite movies, Grace of My Heart. She's directed plenty of television. She has taught film in California, and now she's more on the festival circuit, judging and advising. This is I believe, her second big film after Gas Food Lodging. This movie from 1993, takes a look at girl gangs living in Echo Park, which is now a gentrified part of California. But back in 1993, it was heavily Hispanic. A lot of people grew up in this neighborhood. And really, the movie centers around different characters, but it's really the story of this neighborhood, too. You know, them coming from Mexico, coming to live in this neighborhood, and, you know, gang culture taking over more out of a necessity, you know, for bored youth, but also to defend the neighborhood and the people in it. I love this film. I will admit, at first, I love this film because I had crushes on all the women in the cast of this movie. Angela Vilez, Sadie Lopez, even the real gang member who plays Whisper, Nelda Wilson. Oh my God, with the blonde hair. I was like, oh, that's wifey, even when I was only 15. I will admit, the Chola look is very attractive to me, especially when I was a teenager. And so, watching this movie, I didn't see it in theaters. That's the only thing I kicked myself for. I didn't see it until it came out on home video, even though I was aware of the film. It even had a hit single. I cannot remember the name of it. I even remember the video for it. I'm probably going to look it up while you're talking to get the name of the song. But this is a film, I had it on VHS. I used to watch it all the time. I always tried to recommend it to anybody who wanted to see it at the time. But obviously, I got older. It got lost in my brain. But yeah, I think it's an achievement, especially when Allison Anders is a white woman from the Midwest. And she, you know, interviewed people because she was living in Echo Park at the time. She interviewed people around the neighborhood, took all their stories and banged out a script. And even one of the women on camera died of a drug overdose during the filming of the movie. And she ended up adopting that woman's son. And so I think this is also one of her more personal films because of that experience. Andre, what is your experience with the movie Mi Vida Loca?
So I never heard of this movie until you brought it up as your recommendation for No, I you know, again, the 90s, I was a young kid, and this movie never even got past me, whether it was on HBO or anywhere else. And very little did I knew about Allison Anders except for Four Rooms. So going into this, I knew nothing. I thought when you told me the title, I thought it was going to be like a romantic comedy.
No.
It was far from it. What I appreciate about this film is when I look back at that period, this was the time of like Boys in the Hood and Blood In, Blood Out. And I feel like with the latter picture, it's kind of got the same DNA, but from another perspective, where that movie was dealing with, you know, hardcore Bloods and Crips. or the Latin Kings. This was dealing with the ladies in
Mm-hmm.
in California, and liking the fact that all the stories were lifted from real lives, from real experiences, and a lot of shocking, twists and turns in the drama between some of the baby mama situations and then the kids that get caught up in the line of fire, especially at the end. It was like, holy shit, you
That came out
know
of nowhere.
yeah, like Allison Anders, she could go into the heart and soul of these girls, but then she also knows when to rip your heart out too. And that really is what makes this film so unique. And it knows when to be gritty, but it also knows when to be a melodrama, but effective, not over the top. So a lot of things about it that I think are very much in the spirit of independent cinema of the 90s. And it's a shame it didn't get bigger play back then, because this is probably one of those movies I would have seen much earlier if I had known about it.
Yeah, because I mean, you have Danny Trejo in one scene.
I was shocked to see Danny Trejo. I mean, that was like a total unrecognizable Danny Trejo role.
Yeah, he had shorter hair. The tattoos weren't as defined, but still no shirt. And Salma Hayek, one of her first American roles. And since you were talking about not American Me, Blood In, Blood Out, Jesse Borrego in a major role in this film. Rewatching it, this is where I had seen Jacob Vargas. I remembered him being in Gas Food Lodging, the first one by Allison Anders, and I was happy like she brought him, recast him in this in a totally different type of role as a Junior, the lover of the two leads. And one of the things I really admired about the film is that even though at the beginning it seems like it's going to be these two girls' stories, they kind of pass the baton to other characters, and we get to know their stories, their experiences, while the other two main characters are still in the background, So I like that. Even though I know Mousy was Angel's first love, but it seemed like the Angela Vilez character loved him more because she was the one who seemed to not be able to get over him, whereas Sadie Lopez's character was like, yeah, I miss him, but let's party. So it was just like, okay, that's your first love, girl. Also, if you for a keen eye and seeing one scene, Jason Lee's first film, and Spike Jonze, as the white guys trying to buy dope from him, even though they have no lines in the film. It was just like, wow, all these people who are now like big all had like these small little roles in the tapestry of the making of this film. And
the Miramax stable.
Well, yeah, but the non-rapey Miramax stable, it was like guys who like kind of like once they heard about Harvey was like, yeah, I'm getting out, that might be because Miramax Films produced this, and her next film, I believe, was Grace Meyer. No, that was Miramax too. So I'm like, but after that, but yeah, Allison Anders is just one of those filmmakers who I'm sort of like, we're Facebook friends, but I don't know her. Like we're not like, oh, so how was your day? But she's definitely somebody I have always wanted to interview on the show. So if she is seeing this, I will send this episode to her. I would love to talk to her about just her career, her films, and how much they've meant to me because, next to you have your Elaine Mays, your Barbara Streisands, but to me, this is one of my favorite female filmmakers next to Amy Heckerling, because always has a point of view, always might tell a story not the way you expect it to be, and is always truthful in the delivery, and has always mainly worked as an independent director and has told these stories. Like even in her film Things Behind the Sun, it's semi-autobiographical about like based around like she was sexually assaulted as a teenager. Yeah. So that's what that film is about. Grace of My Heart is kind of a thinly veiled like story of Carole King in the Brill Building films. That is a film I highly recommend for everybody to go out and see. And even her first film she directed by herself, Gas Food Lodging, is this little romantic story with you, one of your favorites, Ione Skye, and Fairuza Balk and Jacob Vargas and Brooke Adams. And it's a melodramatic kind of love story that takes place in New Mexico. And she made that film vibrant. And it wasn't the type of film me as a 13-year-old I would normally watch. Really, like you, I was in it for Fairuza Balk and Ione Skye. And I discovered this like great independent artwork. And I was just fascinated by her. And I followed her ever since, and I really love this film. And like I said, that's why I was shocked this is the first time you've even heard of it. It's like, this film. And the name of the song was Hey DJ by Lighter Shade of Brown. That was a minor hit or I remember it always being on MTV at the time. And and especially for a woman who is Caucasian to make a film that basically revolves around his Mexican culture or Hispanic culture and get it right. There is no great white savior in the film. There's barely any saviors in the film.
Most of the men are not even existent, and they're not good.
Exactly, because even like Angel, who's supposed to be this great character, openly cheats. And even they even show the misogynistic scene of the guys all getting to decide what to do with the truck when it rightfully would be the female's truck to decide what to do with. Yeah, there's just so much greatness in this film. Look, I'm not going to say it's the greatest film ever made, but it's something I wish was a movie I wish people talked about more. And I was hoping, like, as you said, when Ricky Martin with Living La Vida Loca, maybe some people would see that on the box art and be like, hey, let me check this movie out, because it's My Crazy Life, which is the English translation of the title. But like I said, it is just so many different levels of good that I wish more people not only knew about this film, but knew of the work of Allison Anders and, Nicole Hofstetter, another female director who is great and who doesn't get enough credit, for all the accomplishment and achievements she's made over the years, and she was, and like, since you only knew 4 rooms, she was part of that generation with the Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Alexander Rockwell, Richard Linklater. They all were at Sundance together, and I'm happy she's still working. But let's face it, only Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez seem to be the only ones of note who are still working, And but you also got to give Allison Anders this. She didn't have the hype machine Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez had. And look at how many movies she managed to make and put out. And
that tells you, I mean, she's probably more comfortable doing the non-commercial productions, or even like things that, I mean, Tarantino really isn't, I would say, commercial per se, but he does get heavily overhyped. And Rodriguez, of course, now he's doing The Mandalorian. But Allison Anders kind of stayed in the same wavelength from the start of her career to where it is now.
Exactly. Like, okay, other than the shocks, what would you say is your most favorite scene from Mi Vida Loca?
I gotta say, that's a good one. There was the confrontation with the 2 girls in the on the hills.
Mm-hmm.
There was that. And probably the ending, because that came out of left field.
Yeah, that is true. Even the first time I saw it, I didn't expect that. I totally forgot about it when rewatching it. I was like, damn. And I also kind of like the long shot because the movie doesn't cut at the spoiler at the funeral till all the characters walk off.
Yeah, when everybody leaves.
Yeah, like we watch each individual walk off, and then finally the camera only cuts after everybody has left. And and this is why I always say movie soundtracks are important, because if it had not been for Quentin Tarantino or this movie, Allison Anders, I would not be a fan of Dusty Springfield, because this and Pulp Fiction were the first times I ever heard Dusty Springfield music and was wondering, like, who is that and where can I hear more of this? So, this is why I always, they don't really do it anymore. Sometimes they'll put in, some older songs, but if you notice, movies now are more scored. They don't even have original songs anymore like they used to. So when you watch these older films, it kind of leads you on an odyssey because there's always a few songs that just stick in your brain and you want to know where did they come from. And so then you discover that artist, and then you discover other artists who were either influenced by them or who they influenced. So I also credit this film. There's a lot of films that have done this, but this film in particular for the Dusty Springfield, connection. So like I said, my favorite scene actually is when Whisper has to show Angel's, I guess, brother how to do a drug deal, basically. And also the shocking scene when you find out who killed Angel or Ernesto, even the stupid scene where the two girls where I guess Angel Avila's character is trying to brush her hair a certain way, showing that they were once innocent girls, before the gang lifestyle took over. Even though not quite sure how they make money, because that is never discussed. Okay, it's sort of like Goodfellas. Like, I'm not saying I did this, but I might have been involved in some illegal activities. So, yeah, this is why, this movie, if I had known you had never, I'm glad I picked this as a deep dive for you then, because, I want you to discover more of her films. And I feel like this is a better introduction in Four Rooms,
Yeah.
so you can kind of see the quality of story she makes on her own, because Grace of My Heart, that's her biggest budget, her biggest story. So I want you to see her when she was still doing the nitty gritty with her work. Would you recommend this film?
Absolutely.
And you, since I picked it, I definitely recommend it for the right reasons this time, not like somehow you got to see how bad this is. And please, Miss Anders, if you do somehow see this episode, we would love to interview you about your talents, your career, or if you just want to talk about one movie in particular, we'll even take that, because I have been a fan of your work since 1992, and have been singing its praises. Apparently not loud enough to my partner here. But, I am sure he will now be more willing to go out and seek watching your films. And to the audience, please go out, watch her films. They are definitely worth it, especially for all of you who stood behind Barbie for its feminine message. Yeah. This isn't like, her films aren't going to be, cookie cutter, but they're telling real female stories of all different cultures and from a knowing experience, not a patronizing one. So please go out and see Me, Vida, Loca, and the films of Allison Anders. And that ends this episode of the Deep Dive. So until next time, we bid you adieu.